Welcome to the Liberating Humanity podcast. I'm Paul Hutchinson. Today is a special podcast. It's a mastermind that I'm doing on business and success principles that you can use in every part of your life. Anyway, I'm going to back way up and just teach some important principles on the way through. Number one, I don't think that we would have ever achieved the success that we had if we didn't have a powerful reason why. Both John and myself, I tell people if you have to have an alarm clock to wake you up in the morning, then you don't have a big enough dream, right? You need something that's just gets you excited, and it's okay. It's okay to have a vision board with things on it. You know, find out the car. If you want a Ferrari, you better know what it sounds like, right? You better know what it feels like and how it's different than a Lambo. If you want to travel, you know, put some pictures of those up and ask yourself why you want to travel, why you want to have that car, why? Because a person who understands why is never at the mercy to somebody who simply understands how. And if you're going to be the master of your own destiny moving forward, it's super important that you have a clear vision, not only of where you're going, but more importantly, why you want to get there. Why do you want to have $10 million in the bank? Why do you want to have that car? Why do you want to travel with your family? What is it going to mean for you, your family, how you feel about yourself? What about the ability to write big checks and make a powerful impact in the lives of others? So these are all things that you need to get super clear on. In fact, I remember early on in my career, I had a mentor. This mentor was named Steve, and I would spend time with him whenever I could, and I would literally, I told him, Steve, I said, I know you have so many people that are wanting your time to learn from you, and he lived like 2 hours away from the airport. I said, listen, I know you travel a lot. If you ever are going on a trip that's going to last more than a week or whatever else, let me know. I will drive to your house. I will ride with you just so I can spend time with him and, you know, mentoring with him to the airport. And then you won't have to leave your car at the airport. I will take it for you. I'll park it in our garage, make sure it's perfect. As soon as you land coming back, I'll be back again. So for me, that got me an extra 4 hours of mentoring time anytime he traveled, because I was spending, you know, that special time with him that wouldn't normally have happened because he was driving by himself to the airport. Well, a few years went by, and I had started to build a pretty successful company, and I was mentoring some young entrepreneurs. One of them was named Dallas, and I wanted to introduce Dallas to some of my mentors, and so I invited Dallas to ride on, you know, Steve has this beautiful Mercedes. And so I had Dallas sitting up front with Steve, and I'm sitting in the back. And Steve said to Dallas, he said, Dallas, what's your dream? What's your reason why? Why do you want to build this company? You know, and he was building this CPA company and investing in some real estate as part of it. And Dallas said, well, that's the problem. And I already knew what that meant, is because Dallas really was having a hard time figuring out his why. And Steve said, what was that? And I thought Steve didn't hear Dallas. So I leaned forward and I said, yeah, he said, that's the problem. And Steve turned around and he said, no, Paul, that's your problem. I'm like, that's my problem that Dallas doesn't have a reason why? Does it have a dream? Why is that He said, what are you teaching him? You're giving him all the how-to of how to build his company, yet he has no motivation, no reason why. He said, you need to stop giving him all the list of 1, 2, 3, ABC, and you need to take him out looking at new houses, looking at new cars, figuring out what it is that he wants to do, figure out his why. So that is paramount, guys. Whatever you do where you're moving forward in your life, figure out what that why is and get super clear on it. And once you do, then going through the rejections, having this deal that didn't go through, whatever it is, all of these roadblocks that inevitably happen every single time when you're building anything, if it's easy to get there, then it's probably not worth it. It's probably a get-rich-quick thing. You're going to lose your money, right? Everything that you're going to earn real, big, solid money on is going to be hard. It's don't have this mindset that it's going to be super hard, but you are going to have to overcome the biggest obstacles, which is your own self-doubt and your own, oh crap, that's too, it's not that hard. If you have a big enough dream, it's not. So that's the paramount right there, is figuring out your reason why. And that started early on, even before I met John, as I was starting to build my first company. And my first company, some of you guys already know, is a company that helped people overcome anxiety and depression, PTSD, addictions. The reason I put so much into that is that I came to an understanding that it was a massive market, sadly. So as you're going into anything, make sure that there's a big enough market there where you can make money doing it, whether it's, apartments, whether it's senior housing, whatever it is, make sure that there's a market ahead. So sadly, I came to an understanding that literally 1 in every 4 people deal with debilitating anxiety, depression, PTSD, or addictions at some time in their life that holds them back. And so for many, many years, I spent time building a company to help people overcome that. And some of the success principles in building that one were things that we use later with Bridge. And number 1 was getting the right people on the bus based on their work ethic, their integrity, etc. And then number 2, putting the right people in the right seats. Every company that I've built has worked in that. And you would read this in a book called Good to Great, where he talks about, having the right people on the bus is first step. Then you might say, hey, you know what, that guy fits a little bit better here. This guy fits a little bit better here. The biggest money that I've ever lost in all of my companies, and it's happened many, many times, guys, the biggest money every single time that I have lost has been because of dealing with people who didn't have integrity. That I can't underwrite fraud, right? And dealing with somebody where, okay, they were out of integrity here, and here. So why didn't I recognize the fact that they could very easily be out of integrity here as well in their business dealing with me? I saw them doing all kinds of other things in their life, and sure enough, I lost money there. I had a business partner. I had to sue him for $2 million because he was completely out. He stole a whole bunch of money from our company. Well, guess what? I should have noticed that he was out of integrity in every other area of his life. I remember one time when he came, we were in France together, and he goes, bro, look what I did just today. And he shows me this video of him effing a prostitute, right? So the energy itself, this is the kind of guy I was doing business with. No wonders he screwed me, right? So making sure that you are working with people that are in alignment with the integrity that you have moving forward is step number 1. And then step number 2 is saying, okay, now that I'm working with somebody with a good heart, and I know they've got a good heart, now let's figure out how to maximize their skill sets. I might have brought this guy on as an appointment setter or a closer, but he may be really, really good at managing people. So I might just put him in a leadership position there. Or guess what? I just realized that guy that I had as the helping out as a secretary position here, he really understands. He actually went to school and got a degree in IT, and he can help make sure the computer. So finding the right people first in terms of integrity was something that worked. The guys that came on that had grandiose ideas, but their personal life was falling apart and all these other things, and they were doing things that were out of integrity, those are the ones I ended up losing money to. And I lost a lot. That one business partner lost $1.7 million. You can look up that lawsuit online, and we're still collecting on that one. And another one I lost another $1 million to. Another one I lost $3 million to. I mean, I would be a crap ton richer if I was smarter about the type of people that I had in the beginning. And so that's as I was building my company, finding the right people, and then also understanding what motivates different people. I came to realize that as John and I were building the fund, I remember there was this lady, her name was Vicky, and she was working in the accounting thing, right? She was perfectly happy working her entire life, 9 to 5, being off at 5 o'clock every single day, being home with her kids. She was incredibly consistent with where she was, but even extra bonuses or even the talk of, hey, as we grow as a company, you can have a 1% ownership was not interesting to her at all, right? It's important to understand that not everybody has the dreams that you have, and that's okay. It's important to identify what is important to them and put them in that seat of the bus so that they can be consistent. I don't need to have somebody in my accounting department that wants to take over the company someday, because I had 70 people in the accounting department, So it'd be important to find out what their goals are and what is important for them in their life and provide that to them. And for a lot of people, you've heard this, but I'm going to say it again. What is the one thing that babies cry for it and grown men die for it? It's recognition, right? You'll find that a lot of your people will do more for healthy recognition than they will even for a bonus, right? And so we would, in my first company I was building that had a big call center helping people overcome anxiety, we had 200 employees. And once a week on Friday, I would pull everybody off the phones, put them all into the big open area room, and we would have recognition. We would have the music playing and the top in each one of the things and whatever else. And, all of these things where we could provide that healthy recognition to as many people as possible. I realized, holy crap, and I've got 200 people that are, nobody's being productive right now. Nobody's on the phone right now. I'm paying an average of $25 an hour per person. I got a couple hours off. This is tens of thousands of dollars on a Friday that I'm, quote, losing because I'm pulling them off the phones. No, I wasn't at all. I was ensuring that next week and all the rest of the 38 hours of their week were incredibly productive because I was providing that healthy recognition to them. And so this happened all the way through. As John and I, when I retired from Bridge, we had over 4,000 employees. 4,000, right? Now, they've actually gone down in number, about 2,000 employees and much bigger AUM, meaning they're probably running it more efficiently than we did, right? Or they're outsourcing some stuff. But as we were building those, the same principle applies as you're building your team, is finding out what is motivating to them, what is important to them, what their dreams are, and helping to build them. I remember back in that anxiety company that we were building at Anxiety, I had an employee named Robert, and Robert was so effective for like the first 3 or 4 days of the month, right? He would come in, he would make enough sales, boom, that his bonuses off those sales alone would completely cover all of his bills. He was living in a one-bedroom apartment with 2 kids, right? And had this piece of crap car. So he didn't really he had a $30,000 a year lifestyle maximum, right? He could probably get by on 20. And so he would come in and make a couple $1,000s for that day. And that was for 3 or 4 days. And then all of a sudden his performance would just nosedive. And he would literally come in every day and he would kneel down in front of his desk praying, God, please help me, please help me. Here's the problem, guys. He thought he was exercising faith. Faith is not asking God to fix things in your life that you don't believe are going to be fixed. He didn't have any faith. He really didn't believe that he could do anything more. Why? Because he saw himself as a $25,000, $30,000 a year guy, right? Yet if he was consistent those first 2 or 3 days, if he was consistent the entire month, he would make in 6 figures easily, multiple 6 figures. And so what I did, again, identifying his why, I said, Robert, we're going to take a couple hours. We're getting off the phones. We're going to go and go for a drive. And we did. And we're driving. I said, Robert, tell me this. If every car cost $1, what would you drive? He goes, like $1? I said, yeah, every car costs $1. He goes, well, I've always wanted to have one of those vans, those vans that have the kind of the high top and the back goes down into a bed and whatever. Now, that's not my dream, right? But it was his, right? So I says, have you ever driven one of those? He goes, oh, no, I haven't. I said, let's go drive one, right? So we did. I took him out. He said, oh, I can't afford this. I said, yes, you can. Do you realize that in the first 3 days of every pay period, you earn enough money that if you were consistent, you could easily have this for your family? And so, we drove it, and then I asked him, what does he want to do to give back? Where does he want to travel? And what does he, where would he live if every house costs $1? And he says, oh, those houses on these. So we drove up there and looked at him. Robert's performance increased significantly because now he was exercising real faith, knowing that he actually could, yes, still pull upon the powers of your Creator as part of it is so important, but having a clear vision of what you want. I use this principle. It was funny. If you guys have met my wife, out of Vanessa, she's phenomenal. 8+ years ago, I got a phone call from Tony Robbins. Tony's been a good friend for a while, and Tony said, "Hey, Paul, I know you're good friends with some other influencers. One was Glenn Beck. He said, I think it'd be awesome to have Glenn come to one of my UPW events." I was like, oh, that'd be cool. So I call up Glenn. Sure enough, we go, and there's a part, if you guys have been to Tony's events, there's a part where he does this a lot, but there's this part in this one where he had this 2-hour section that he had you write down in detail what you wanted, what your vision was of your company and what you were creating moving forward. And he emotionally takes you there where you can feel it, you can see it. It's like you're smelling, you're there, you're in that success. And then he emotionally pulls it back away, and then he builds you up so that you have it again. And it's a powerful exercise in combining your goals with powerful emotion, because that emotion is what really drives it, right? And so I realized, you know what? I used this technique in building my anti-anxiety and depression company and building I had a whole bunch of other little coaching companies and stuff that we built. And then I used it to build Bridge, and we were billions by this time. I'd also used it to start building some of the charity work, the philanthropy things that we did, but I had never used it in my personal life, never once. And I was on a second marriage, headed for a divorce, and everything was, so I realized this is a powerful principle, probably the most powerful principle in building everything. Because again, I'm going to teach you some how-to stuff, but it's this why that is everything. And so I wrote down in detail, this is what the woman in my life, how she shows up for me, how I show up for her, how she shows up for my kids, how I treat her in public, how she treats me, etc., in details of what that looked like, what that felt like. And my other marriage ended up going into a divorce very quickly after that because she wasn't what I really wanted and I wasn't what she wanted. Once I sent out to the universe, once I told God exactly what it is that I wanted in my life, then God said, okay, now I know he knew. He knows me really well, but I never verbalized what it was, right? You can't just expect, oh, God knows that I want a Lamborghini. God knows that I want to have enough money to give away to charity. Guess what? You got to write it down. You got to visualize it. That's part of this co-creation there. Your mind and your energy literally is connected to everybody and everything around you. And by having that clear visualization of what it is, you're able to co-create with divinity and create that all in your life. And so less than 2 months later, I was in Haiti. I had done 12 undercover child rescue missions in Haiti. And sadly, one of my operators got killed. His name was Jim. I talk about it in depth in the Sound of Freedom book that's coming out. I was at his funeral, and that's when I met Vanessa. And she is everything that I had visualized in that exercise. And so, getting super clear on that is important. Now, another key principle to success that goes right along with going to that Tony Robbins mastermind, being part of Tim Mai's mastermind right here, getting specific. And this is why being here as part of these ones is so incredibly important. People, somebody asked once when I was speaking, he says, Paul, after I start making all this money in this company, what's the best, where should I invest it? Where's the best place for me to invest my money? The very best place for you to invest your money always is in yourself. The most valuable piece of real estate you will ever own is not the Soho district of New York at $17,000 a square foot. That's cheap compared to the most valuable piece of real estate you'll ever own is the 6 inches between your ears. You develop that, have a lifelong learning and build that, then literally the world is yours. And so making a conscious choice to be here at these events, to learn everything you can from Tim and his other mentors and whatnot. Also, when you're driving in your car should be a university on wheels. If you're not talking to somebody on a call or a conference call or whatever else, I don't even want you to know if your car radio works. You should have audio programs on whatever it is that you're studying, that you're wanting to be the best at. If you're just brand new in the senior housing space or in the apartment space or whatever it is, if you're brand new, then be spending every day developing that 6 inches between your ears. If you listen to at least 1 full hour audio tape per day, and you go to at least one conference mastermind like this at least every couple months, and you're tuning in to all of the stuff that you're learning here, and you're reading a book, at least a book a month, 3 months from now, nobody will know that you're doing it because you'll almost kind of be the same guy. 3 years from now, everybody in your inner circle will know that you're doing it because you will have changed your mentality. You'll have changed your income level. You'll have changed everything so much that they'll be like, holy crap, some of this changing with Tim. Wow. And it's just because you're constantly educating that most powerful piece of real estate. 30 years from now, so you got 3 years from now, everybody will know that you're doing it. 30 years from now, you will have made a global impact. There will be people all over the world that know that you have done that every day because of the impact you're going to be able to make. So don't just say, oh, I graduated from high school back then and I'm not going to learn anything. No, always be learning, always be growing. Something else important is the people you associate with. This is why spending $10,000 on a mastermind and going to an event and connecting with the right people is so important. Your income and your influence and your lifestyle 5 years from now will be the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, okay? So if your people that you spend the most time with are, every Tuesday and every Thursday are getting drunk at the bar and they're in their, they're on their third marriage and it's falling apart, well, guess what? 5 years from now, your marriage is probably going to fall apart. You're probably getting drunk at the bar. You're probably not going to have the lifestyle that you want. So finding that time to connect. In fact, I joke and I tell people, well, if you donate $10,000 to the Child Liberation Foundation, I will donate 1 hour of my time to you in mentoring or looking at some of your deal flow or whatever else. Or if you want to spend more than an hour with me, if you want to spend 5 days with me, it's going to cost you less. It's going to cost you less than half of that amount, but we're going to work on your shit, right? You're going to come down to one of our retreats, but the power of those is not only the personal development, but it's also the fact that association, that connection on a deep level with some powerful, influential people that are moving somewhere. And so, whether it's at one of Tim's events, whether it's this mastermind, whether it's a retreat, whatever it is, getting in the right room with the right people. I remember years ago, John and I were first starting the fund, and we had we were still Bridge Loan Capital. We weren't Bridge Investment Group at the time, and we had about, we had been working hard. I only had about $2 million under management at the time, right? It was just getting started. John and I both had some of our own money in. We were doing hard money lending to companies that had purchase order financing and stuff like that, and we were floating their purchase order of products and whatever. And I was trying to figure out how to get in the door with the right people and whatever. And I had a friend that called me and he said, Paul, he said, you want to go to Africa and climb Kilimanjaro? I said, no. I lived in Utah. I said, I haven't even climbed Mount Olympus. This is my backyard, right? Literally the trailhead of Mount Olympus was a 5-minute drive from my house, and I had never climbed it. So why would I go to Africa? Go climb some big mountain there? That doesn't sound any fun at all, right? And he said, we're leaving in about 4 months, and you have to give up all your Saturdays between now and then because we got to train, and it's going to cost you about $10,000. I said, well, then hell no. Why would I give up $10,000 and mile my Saturdays? No. He said, well, let me tell you what we're doing. He didn't take no for an answer. Anytime somebody says no, don't think of an N-O. Think of a K-N-O-W, right? They need to know more. So he was a good closer. He knew that I needed to know more. He said, Paul, let me tell you what we're doing. He said, I'm taking 12 guys who I have mentored over the years. Now, this guy had a company called Strategic Leadership Consulting that helped people create culture by design rather than by default. He did some great mentoring in one of my companies. And so he said, some of the people that I'm taking are people, most of them are guys that I've trained over the years, and their companies. And they've sold their companies for $200 million. This guy sold his company for $500 million. This guy has worked with this. And he says, let me tell you who's coming already. And he starts reading down the list. Now, there were names on this list like Richard Branson, right? He says, now, Richard's like only 50-50 now, but this guy is the second in command, and this guy that works with him and whatever, and this guy that sold his company for $200 million, he gets like halfway through the list. And I said, Travis, now when are we leaving on this Kilimanjaro trip, right? Because I literally, I don't care if I had to walk barefoot to spend that kind of time with that caliber of people, I knew was going to make all the difference. And so again, this is kind of funny. So it was just John and I in the beginning, just just the two of us. And I told him, hey, I'm going this Kilimanjaro trip because I want to meet some of these guys, and that's great. And Travis had said, hey, the guys that are on this trip, most of them are these power players I told you about. But I am going to bring a couple guys who I think they're going to be really good input in the conversations. They're not really, huge in success. Now, I had relationship arrogance at the time, right? I'm like, I don't want to hang out with guys that aren't successful, right? But it's important to understand that everybody you meet can be a mentor to you in some way, right? So again, you don't want to be hanging out with the guys or going to the bar every Tuesday and Thursday because it might pull you down. But again, don't judge the book by its cover. And so I thought, okay, so Travis is going to invite maybe the janitor as his school as part of this, which is okay. I'll be cool. I'll be nice to him, whatever. So I get there on the mountain. I'm getting to know this guy who I knew he's just sold his company for $200 million, and this guy and all of these power players. And there's this one guy who kept to himself. He was a little short guy and kept a hat on all the time in his backpack, and he was super quiet. And I thought that must be the janitor, right? So, and so like 2 days into the hike, and I had become friends with some of these other guys. I hadn't even talked to this guy yet. So finally I'm like, Paul, you're being an ass, go talk to him. So I did. I start talking to this guy, and I said, so what's your name? He goes, well, my name is Doug. I says, Doug, it's good to meet you. I said, how do you know Travis? So he says, yeah, I live in his neighborhood. And I'm like, hell yeah, he's totally the janitor, right? And then I said, so what do you do for a living? He goes, well, I'm in construction. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe he's a framer, maybe he does drywall. And I said, really? I says, that's great. You do residential or commercial? He goes, a little bit of both. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe he, I said, well, my brother-in-law does roofing. Do you do roofing? Yeah, I've done that. I said, what about drywall? I have one that does drywall. He goes, yeah, we do a lot of that. I said, really? I said, what's your, do you work for a company? He goes, well, I own this company. He told me. He said, he says, I've built 9 Ritz-Carltons, 20 schools, 30 Walmarts, more high-end condos than anybody west of the Mississippi. I'm like, oh shit, right? He literally had 2 private jets. I'm like, crap. And I'm judging the crap out of this guy. So me feeling bad about the fact that I had kind of ignored him for a couple of days, I spent time with him, partially because he's a rock star there, right? So anyway, I became good friends with Doug. And at the time, John and I were still doing bridge loans to companies that were buying products out of Asia and whatever else. And Doug, I decided to go to lunch with him as often as I could. That very first time after we came back from Kilimanjaro, I literally waited an hour and a half. He was an hour and a half late for that lunch. Guess that serves me right for not talking to him for 2 days on the mountain, right? But then he shows up, we sit down, we talk, I schedule another one. Every single month, I took him to lunch on my dime. Now, he had plenty of money, but I needed it. I was picking his brain, right? I wanted to learn everything I could. Well, after a year, Doug said, Paul, he had convinced me and John to move exclusively over to real estate instead because we could still earn the same kind of money doing bridge loans and that. He said, Paul, I really like your integrity. I really like your vision. These are things we talked about already in this call. He says, I really like where you and John are going with all of this. He said, I'm considering selling out of my construction company and I want to be your partner. Now, when somebody like Doug Anderson says, I want to be your partner, you say, and I want to let you, right? So John and I literally, in order to bring him on, we gave up half the company. John and I had 50-50 of the company. We give up half. Now, it wasn't just for Doug. It was for Doug, Jonathan, Kelly, a bunch of other guys that were on his team. Now, Jonathan, which was working for Doug at the time, is now the current CEO of Bridge, right? And so, again, the growth of everything happened. If I hadn't been on that trip and connected with them, then we wouldn't have moved over to real estate. We wouldn't have brought on the team that ended up having Jonathan, everybody else as part of it. So, again, it was worth it to go climb a mountain I didn't want to climb, to associate with the right people so that we could build the team that we ended up building. Guys, I back at one of my mentors in my early 20s, he told me this. He said, Paul, he said, the average person donates 2% of their income. Sadly, millionaires donate less than 2%. He said, make a decision today that number is not 2%, it's not 5%, it's over 10% always in making a difference in the lives of other people, whether that's, your homeless shelter in the neighborhood, whether it's a charity that you want to get behind, tithing that 10% to giving back to those in need is incredibly important. He said, this isn't a religious principle. This is a eternal law. He said, for those who are Christians, even the Muslims who believe in the Old Testament, he said, the book of Malachi says, prove me now herewith if I will not open you the windows of heaven, that there will not be room enough to receive it. He's talking about that tithe. He's talking about giving that 10%. So I made that decision back when I was broke. I'm earning $2,000 a month, and I'm going to give that 10% or more away. I was giving closer to 20. And I tell people this, how does somebody become a partner, let alone a founder of a 20, 30, $40 billion company in terms of assets under management? Well, you're not a University of Utah dropout, right? Which is what I am. The only way that I can understand it is that I made that decision in my early 20s to give until it hurt, and with the expectation that blessings were going to come. And they did. They came sometime not exactly like I wanted it to. It was in a way better way, but amazing, beautiful things happened in my life. So progressing forward, I decided that I was going to focus my charity dollars and my charity time on children, on making a difference in the lives of other people. And I'm not going to go into all the details. We don't have the time on that, but you guys can go and watch some of the podcasts on Liberating Humanity. Long story short, I have a certain set of skills that makes me somewhat safe in a dangerous place. In fact, come to one of our retreats and I'll teach you some of that just for fun. But I was recruited a little over 10 years ago to play a part in a child rescue mission that ended up rescuing 127 children. largest child rescue mission that the foundation had done up to that time. Moving forward, I was asked to continue to lead those missions, and over a period of 10 years, led or played a key part in over 70 undercover child rescue missions in 15 countries. In early 2017, I started the Child Liberation Foundation. You can go to childliberation.org and get information on the foundation. And through our foundation and others that we have helped to fund, because we fund a lot of my other operators and other foundations that I helped start in the beginning, over 7,000 victims are now back with their families. Now, here's what's really cool. And I don't know what the number 7 is, but I'm going to play it 3 times here, right? So over 7,000 victims that I have personally been a part of in the foundations that we built. However, Tony Robbins, his first introduction to the anti-child trafficking space was in Haiti. He just did a piece just 2 days ago that he posted on X, where he talks about his mission in Haiti and how that completely changed his perception and how he wanted to get behind this. Well, through Tony and all of the stuff that's happened since then, over 70,000 children are now rescued from all the foundations that he has helped to raise money for. In fact, I sent him a text yesterday. He sent me one back. He sent me a little voicemail back, which is kind of cool. In fact, just for kicks and giggles, I'll let you hear this. This was yesterday with Tony, and he's like,
"Well, Paul, you were on that first trip with me, as you well know. You were one of those guys doing the most incredible undercover work. So right back at you, brother."
So anyway, here's 70,000 children because of that impact that happened on that first one. Then I'm the primary investor and executive producer behind the movie that helped create a global awareness. And 70 million people have seen The Sound of Freedom. And hundreds of millions of children are safer because of it. And so today, now that the movie's out, I can't do undercover work anymore. So our focus is funding some of the rescue missions of some of the operators I worked with, but most of it is on global change, on changing laws, changing policies, putting together programs to keep the kids safe, building out safe houses and programs for those. We gave away over almost 5,000 gifts of healing over Christmas. I had to dress up as Santa Claus a whole bunch of times throughout Latin America, but I believe firmly that over the next 5 years, the next 10 years, that the Child Liberation Foundation will create a global impact and will be known in every single country around the world. In addition to that, Liberating Humanity, and go to, and Tim just posted Liberating Humanity. Liberating Humanity is more of a holistic approach to not only solving child trafficking, but child abuse in the home, physical abuse, domestic abuse, wars, all of these things. I came to an understanding after 10 years of running undercover child rescue missions that just fighting fire with fire, just rescuing the kids was never going to fix the problem. We needed to elevate global consciousness. We needed to pull people out of this toxicity that we find ourselves in. We need to bring people back to that connection with God and that divinity within. We need to make it so that we're not looking at other people as an object in any way. We're not taking from others. We're not seeing them as lower than us because of their skin color or their ethnicity or their religious background or their gender or whatever. And so these are all things that we're moving forward with the books. Liberating Humanity is publishing the Sound of Freedom book that not only goes through the rescue missions, but shows parents what they can do to keep their kids safe and talks about really what global change looks like in healing humanity. It's also, we're publishing another book in the next few months that's called Compassionate Capitalism, or I might call it Conscious Capitalism. I'll throw it out. You guys can kind of tell me which one's better, but it's changing the way that we see money and changing the way we see business and understanding that we can really create a win-win-win philosophy in everything that we do, that your economics teacher lied to you. It's not a division of scarce resources that is economics. Indeed, we live in a world of massive abundance, and we can tap into that massive abundance for ourselves and for everybody else. as we abide by these principles. And so this is kind of the bigger picture of where we're going. As part of that, like I say, we've got the 5-day healing retreat, so you can learn about that on Liberating Humanity if that's something that interests you. If you want to be part of what we're doing with the foundation, then we would love to have your help there. You can go onto the childliberation.org and get more information there, or you can connect with us as well. Brian just texted. He's been to one of the retreats, and it was so awesome to see Brian and his wife just connecting on that super powerful, deep, loving energy that came from that healing space. So I'm incredibly grateful for everybody that has come down and is coming down. We have one on the 29th that was coming to. Tim's putting one together in May, and we'd just love to spend time with anybody who feels called to that. Thank you for joining me on the Liberating Humanity podcast. This was super fun to share these success principles with this group online and with you. Hopefully it was something that you can apply in your lives and share it. Share it with friends, share it with family, and join us next time on Liberating Humanity.